June 1969. London's talk of the town nightclub sits in unusual silence. The velvet curtains hang heavy, and cigarette smoke still lingers in the air from the night before. But what happened on that stage just 3 weeks before Judy Garland's death would remain one of Hollywood's most haunting secrets. I'm Margaret Sullivan, and I was the club's piano accompanist that night. What I witnessed still gives me chills 54 years later. It started with a phone call at 2 a.m. Mickey Deans, Judy's fifth husband, was desperate. "She needs to sing, Margaret. Tonight. It might be her last chance." The desperation in his voice told me everything I needed to know. Judy was in one of her dark phases again, the kind that had destroyed so many of her comebacks before. When she arrived at 11 p.m. the next evening, I barely recognized the woman who had captivated the world as Dorothy. Her iconic ruby slippers had been replaced by worn-out black pumps. Her hands shook as she gripped the microphone stand, and those famous eyes, once sparkling with the magic of Oz, now held a haunting emptiness. But here's what nobody knows, what never made it into any biography or documentary. That night, there were only 12 people in the audience, 12 witnesses to what I believe was Judy's real goodbye to the world. She didn't start with "Over the Rainbow" like everyone expected. Instead, she chose "The Man That Got Away," her voice cracking with a vulnerability I'd never heard before. As she sang, something extraordinary happened. The woman who had struggled with pills, alcohol, and heartbreak for decades seemed to find her true voice again, deeper and more honest than it had ever been. Imagine discovering that your childhood hero, the woman who taught you to believe in somewhere over the rainbow, was saying goodbye right in front of you. What would you have done? Would you have tried to stop her, or simply listened? During the instrumental break, she walked to our table, a small round one near the piano, and sat down with us, her breath smelling of gin and desperation. "I never really left Kansas. I've been trying to get back home my whole life." The irony wasn't lost on any of us. Here was Dorothy, still searching for home after 4 decades. Then came the moment that changed everything. She asked me to play something she'd never performed publicly, a song she claimed she'd written in her diary during her darkest nights at MGM. It's called "The Last Yellow Brick," her voice barely. "You'll soon discover why this song was never recorded, why it disappeared and why those of us who heard it made a pact never to speak of it." The melody was haunting, unlike anything in her catalog. As she sang about a little girl who followed a yellow brick road that led nowhere but back to her own shadow, the room fell into a silence so could hear hearts. The lyrics spoke of dreams sold to studios, of innocence auctioned off for spotlights, of a rainbow that was nothing but painted backdrop. Stay with me, because what happened next reveals the real reason Judy Garland died. As she reached the final, something shifted. The fragile woman who had walked in transformed in powerhouse we all remember. Her voice soared with a strength. She sang about finally being able to rest, about no longer needing to perform for anyone. Was the last line. "The yellow brick road ends where it began." Little girl's heart that learned too late that home was never a feeling she gave away. Applause. The room erupted. Not polite applause, not the manufactured emotion of a typical nightclub audience, but genuine soul weeping. Even the bartender, a gruff Londoner who claimed seen everything, was open. Here's the detail that makes this story feel like recovered memory rather than. After she finished, Judy carefully folded and tucked them into her left. The same should be found empty in her Belgravia apartment. The lyrics. Which side do you believe? The official story that Judy died of an accidental overdose, or the hidden truth that she had already said her real goodbye that night in London? Tell us below. As I walked her to the door she turned to me with a smile I hadn't since her early MGM day. "Margaret, promise me something. Don't let them remember me as broken." I wasn't broken tonight, was I? I assured her it was magnificent, and she squeezed my hand with surprising strength. The next morning, the newspapers reported that Judy Garland had been seen stumbling out of a London nightclub. Just another sad chapter in her public. They had no idea they were reporting on a resurrection, not a fall. The scent of her perfume, white shoulders, lingered in the club for days afterward. Every time someone opened the piano bench where I kept my sheet music, that same delicate fragrance would drift out, as if she had left a piece of her soul there with us. What the world never knew was that Judy Garland didn't die broken and defeated. She died having found her voice again, having said goodbye on her own terms, in her own way. That night at Talk of the Town wasn't the end of her story. It was her final masterpiece. 3 weeks later, when news of her death reached London, those 12 witnesses met again at the same club. We didn't speak much, but we all understood. We had been present for something sacred, something that belonged to Judy and to us, but not to the world that had taken so much from her already. Here is the song that Judy loved the most. Over the rainbow, see you in the next video.